Hello everyone, this is Genius Yoshi, and today we are talking about the metagame, and I'll be presenting you with 5 decks that I think are at the top of the metagame. This is based on my personal opinion, as well as some decklists that I've seen from a handful of tournaments, yet we are still quite early with the rise of the Floodborn metagame, but it's time to start showing some lists. And I've put my spin on some of the lists, and taken some of the cards from the list off of the internet that seem to be doing well. It's a bit of a mix and match of both. Well, let's get right to it. Let's begin with Amber Steel Songs. That is, in my opinion, one of the strongest, most reliable decks that's available out there. You're playing almost exclusively powerful cards. I actually have a deck building and gameplay video out there if you want to see the deck in action. But I'm sure you've seen some versions of it being played against you if you play on Pixelborn or in local tournaments. The goal of the deck is to make use of the super powerful Grab Your Sword and A Whole New World as 5-drop songs, and now we even have the new song, Let the Storm Rage On, which allows you to gain a lot of card advantage. A lot of just, well, having the ability to board wipe just the opponent's side of the field is extremely strong. We still have Tinkerbell, we now have Cinderella. A lot of these big top-end heavy hitters are available in a very synergistic shell. Having Cinderella as the 1-drop, as almost a spectacular singer, with Ariel on 3, but singing above their weight allows you to kind of cheat these songs earlier than you should, or for cheaper than you should later in the game, where you can keep your bigger drops like Tinkerbell and Cinderella Stoutheart just hitting the opponent's characters instead of singing songs, while your beautiful princesses are singing on the side and winning you a lot of tempo, a lot of card. I love this list, super fun to play, and definitely in the top running of the metagame. The second deck I want to talk about is Ruby Sapphire Control, also known as Popsicle Control. I haven't played that particular list myself, but I've seen it being presented as a top deck in metagame, and I've seen multiple lists make it to top 8 of tournaments. So this list has a lot of good stuff going for it. The Popsicle card itself, merged with Hiram Flabbersham, give you ridiculous card advantage. Also, you can use just Popsicle to heal some of your combative character, like healing a Maui, healing an Aladdin is pretty big. You have access to all of the nice ramp spells, One Jump Ahead, Grammatala, Mickey Mouse. It's played in different combinations based on your flavor. You can also play Titan Ambition as an early game removal. It's great to kill off your own Grammatala, get her into ink, while also dealing 2 damage to the opponent's character, being inkable. Also, another use for your Mickey Mouse detective. Titan Ambition is really kind of an emerging tech that is doing quite well in lists like these. Judy Hopps also allows you to cycle your items. Shield of Virtue. Ruby kind of wanted to play a handful of copies of Shield of Virtue anyways, and that's also food for Flaversham, which is pretty great. We have the standard Maui into Maleficent top end. Full playset to be prepared. I personally would favor a few less, but all the copies I've seen play 4 copies, so let's go with the standard. You also have Queen of Hearts, has a nice card draw. So ramp, card draw, removal, you have the perfect triangle to take down these pesky opponents that are trying to win the game. Control at its finest. The third deck on my list is Bounce Control, which is a list that I've seen do better than I expected. Really, that Madam Min and Arthur bouncing back the Merlins into your hand so that you can play them again with Pinocchio, with Maleficent, is a tremendously powerful combination that seems to have imprinted on the metagame. One of the key cards in this list is again Titan Ambition. And having access to Olaf early game and the Madam Mins, you can actually deal 2 damage to the character and keep it alive. And you can even bounce it back later. And Titan Ambition gives you that early game removal for these pesky early game characters while you're applying pressure with Maleficent, with Pinocchio, with Arthur. And you can bounce the characters back into your hand, set up a nice be prepared, and then you go into the bigger top ends, Maui's, Ladies Remain, Maleficent, and just take down your opponent. You can also eat up your early drops if it gets into the late game with Isma, and kind of transition into more card advantage control. You also have the friends on the other side that help with that. The Merlin Rabbit. So you have a lot of early game aggression, some nice controlling components, some nice card draw, which is a nice pillar of an aggressive control deck, really. I did add in the Fairy Godmothers in there as my personal touch. I think they're a nice inkable slot there. But it's been taken off of a list that's been doing quite well in tournaments. And the Madame Min Merlin combo is definitely not to be underestimated. And this list is pretty neat. You also have LeFou to ready your characters, so you don't need a bodyguard to protect your Maleficent or Pinocchio. You're bouncing them back, playing them again, and using them as food for those Madame Mins, or you're just readying them back up with LeFou, or just questing because you're about to win the game. Quite a good answer there too. Next we have Amber Amethyst Aggro, which follows in the same footsteps as the Ruby Amethyst list that we've just covered, in that it uses the Madame Min Merlin synergy with Arthur, that's kind of like a Madame Min, to overwhelm the opponent with card advantage, tempo, getting these strong creatures in, and using the Madame Min's ability to protect your weaker characters. But this list is even more aggressive. You get Maleficent, Lilo, Sleepy, Arthur, Pinocchio, all of these super high questers that you can use early on to get a lot of lore. And if the opponent doesn't react very quickly to this deck, you will take over the game and win very fast. It's the most aggressive deck in the meta game and is going to be one of the key factors that keeps the other decks honest. Other decks must respect Amber Amethyst Aggro and be able to deal with all of these pesky 1-drops that will generate lore faster than you can blink. Rounding up our list, we have Prince John Discard, the infamous deck that just removes the ability for your opponent to play the game. But if the opponent is not putting aggressive pressure on the board, then Prince John Discard is going to make use of Prince John to draw you some cards as you make the opponent discard, using powerful discard engines such as Sudden Chill and You've Forgotten Me, with a bit of Daisy Duck and Flynn Rider on the side. But if you can get a Prince John and You've Forgotten Me, you've gotten huge card advantage, and unless the opponent can compensate with tempo, you're in a pretty good position to win. The rest of the deck is just about ensuring that you get some board presence. Enchantress is very good at questing and making trades. We have Mother Knows Best to bounce card to your opponent's hand so you can make them discard. Cusco, still pretty great. The Queen and John Silver are kind of your removal. The Queen's actually pretty great because if you have a small Queen on the battlefield, you're going to be making your opponent hesitate to make their combat or even quest, because she's so great about turning these combats upside down and making your small character suddenly take out their biggest threats. John Silver is going to force them to not quest, and with a flurry of songs, Ariel, Spectacular Singer, deserves her spot. Overall, you should be afraid when you play against this deck. It's pretty strong, it's annoying to play against, and yeah, I think that it deserves a spot on this list. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and enjoyed looking at my opinion of what are the top 5 decks of the metagame. Let me know in the comments below which decks you agree should make the list, which decks I've missed and should have made the list, and which decks I should not have included on this list, as well as any tweaks that you'd like to mention. Don't forget to like the video, and I'll see you next time.